Hi, this big guy DIY Robert coming to you with a little DIY video on making a ski rack. Several years ago I came across two trunks. I think they call this maple cedar. Someone could correct me on that, but it's definitely cedar. It's like an overgrown bush, but the bush became so large that what would normally be your limbs became a trunk. Give you an idea, let me grab a trunk. Like I said, it's a trunk. It's all cedar. Originally, I wanted to rip this into boards. But when you look at it from this end, you'd lose a lot of wood because of all the indentations, and this stuff is cracked everywhere. So what I ended up using was a circular saw, or no, a power miter saw, and cutting the first trunk. This trunk I haven't done anything with, obviously. And so I cut them into what I call chips. They're about 2 inches, 1.5 inches wide. Love the smell of these things. But I was looking to make a ski rack out of it, and so I did a couple of years ago. So let me show you the ski rack I've made. So this is what I made probably 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. So your skis go in between the logs, and this is for your your old style narrow skis, and then you double the log up for your today's skis, which are much wider. Obviously I didn't make it wide enough. The poles sticking out, that's for your snowboard, that's for your ski poles. Let me show you another one I have. This one here was made for the snowboard. So you got the one snowboard that sits up on the top, and then you got the dowels sticking out that can hold your helmet and your goggles. And then the cedar parts are just really for decoration. So, do I have another one? Nope, that's it. So let me go back into the garage. So this one is going to be done differently from the other one that holds the skis. I'm not doing the double logs to hold it because I just think of the weight and the weight, plus it's kind of a waste. So what I'm doing is I am using dowels. So these are red oak dowels I bought. The bit size I'm using, which is a hole saw right here, 7/8. Yeah, 7/8 hole saw that will fit these wooden dowels. So here's one I've already done. It'll slide right in. So these cedar chips are going to be mounted to this pine, and the pine's going to be doubled up because I want the dowel to go through this and into the first board. It doesn't necessarily have to go into the second one, but it'll give me strength. And then it has to stick out approximately 3 inches from the face of this, so as the ski slides in. This one here, the distance is a little too wide, so this one here is going to be used for ski poles. So I'm going to have this one basically mounted in the middle of this board. Ski poles will be hanging on this, and then I will have the other ones. Let's see. Yeah, this goes this way. The other ones will go out like this with a little distance between them because of the bindings. So what I've done already is I did my hole saw on one side. It doesn't go through, so I took a 1/4 inch drill bit, drilled the holes through this way so they come out this way. So now I know where to enter from the back side, like I did here, to get a finished one. Okay, this will be stained. I was trying a few stains here. This is a Merlot, Early American, or Early America they call it. This is called Sedona Red, and this is called Golden Oak. Now, since this is oak and that's oak, I'm not sure if I'm going to go with the Merlot or with the Golden Oak. Because once you put your varnish on here, or your polyurethane on this, this will darken up. Much darker than this, but obviously not as dark as this. On the camera it looks light, but it's not. It's actually pretty dark. It's almost like a maroon. This is light. It's too light. So what I'm going to show you is how I'm going to make this. Online, I really don't see anything out there, or homemade ski racks that people do. A lot of times they do wood and then they cut slots into it and they stick that on the wall, or they'll build a box. The box will have slots in it, and so your ski tails go right into it and hold your skis, like you'll see at a ski shop. But this one's a little different. I'm trying to be a little more creative. I'm making this for my son in college, and he's going from snowboarding and he's switching over to skiing. So he wanted me to make him a ski rack. So I'm going to do is I'm going to show you as I drill these holes to get this thing started. Each one, I'm getting these really nice slugs. I'm not going to throw these out because I don't know. I think I could use these for something. Yeah, I got, how many now? Three or four. I mean, maybe they could be used to stick on something. You put a screw in it and you could hang a ski pole off it, you know? So, something to think about as I work on this. Need better light. How's that? So the ski rack has to hold 4 pairs of skis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then ski poles. But I wonder if I could use these little dowels down here to, like, you can hang your hat or your goggles off of. You know what I'm saying? I'm limited to how long this can be because of the location on the wall. But yeah, those little dowels there, if I drive a screw through, or through bolt it actually, if I through bolt it, countersink on the back side, well, that won't work because of the nut. I'll figure something out. But that's just an idea right there. So the length of the dowels coming out, I'll have to measure the widest pair of skis I have. It'll be based on that, but because it's going through this and this, it'll give me the opportunity to have this a little on the long side, because then I'll have the strength, because of, you know, when the skis are hanging, there's quite a bit of weight, especially when you got 4 skis hanging off the wood. So the next thing I'm going to do for now is I'm going to end this for now, and we're going to stain one of these boards. Actually, I'm going to stain 2, but I got to glue them together first and then stain it, because the sides, the leading edge as well as the back side and the edges all have to be stained. Once that's done, next we'll be gluing these on, and then they will be held from behind with a specific lag screw that goes into wood. And I gotta be careful, because this stuff, I throw it away. It does crack quite easily, so I got to do it very carefully so that doesn't happen to me. All right, next shot we'll come back and we'll have this glued together. So updates where I'm at on this ski rack. You can see I stained this. The way I did this is what I use for stain. Did I come in, or are you getting a glare? Looks like I'm getting a glare here. It's red chestnut. 232 is the ID on it. I don't know why it won't focus. But, so I applied that on with a foam brush. Of course, it goes on a little thick, which is fine. Then I took a rag. I don't know which one it is, but I took a white rag and then I wiped this whole thing off, so that way I got an even stain through the whole thing. That includes the edge. So before, after. So came out good. I haven't done the varnish on here, obviously, as you look. The reason why is when I go to attach the cedar, I want the bare wood of the cedar to attach to this without having anything in between. It'll glue better. Even though I'm having screws come in from behind it, I'm still going to glue this on there just as an additional holding thing or whatever will hold it. So as for the cedar parts, I kind of did this in steps so you can see how it changes when you apply the varnish on there. So this is what starts off normal without anything on it. So I want you to see clearly the bark. Then I took this lacquer and I sprayed the bark. So you can see how it kind of sticks on the bark. I don't know why my camera doesn't want to focus. Let's do this. Here we go. So it's just a thin little layer on there. And then as you spray the top, you see how there's not much shine to it because the lacquer actually gets soaked in to the cedar. In the bottom, obviously I don't care because that's the part that can be glued. This one here is after 2 coats of polyacrylic. And you can see it starts to bubble up a little. But what I do here is I do it really heavy on the side. And I'm using a bristle brush. I'm using just a straight 2.5-inch angle bristle brush. And I'm putting it on here really thick. Especially when I'm getting into parts like this. I'm doing extra thick on that. This here is 3rd coat. Now you can start seeing the bubbles get generated on here. And as well as the sides. So the bottom, as you do this, you're going to get drips. That's expected. Okay. When I'm done doing the layers of varnish, polyacrylic on here, I will be running it on my belt sander here. So the bottom will look like this, but we will have it shiny. So after the 3 and 4 coats on here, again, I'm doing it really thick with the brush. I don't care if it's stripping off. So after that, I sand it down. And what I'm using is these foam blocks. They're foam sanded blocks, and they come in different, what's the word I'm looking for? I got a senior moment here. Different grit. I like these. These are kind of nifty. I mean, you can get around the edges and stuff of things, but they do a pretty good job. So this here is after 3 to 4 coats. Yeah, 3 to 4 coats sanded. This one here has 6 coats on it. I had to begin to sand it because it too, you can see one mark right there. It too started to bubble, but you can see how that side comes out. It's gorgeous. This one here, I'm going to do one more layer of the polyacrylic, and obviously I got to do 2 more layers here, and then the rest, multiple layers. So when I come back, I'm going to show you what these look like when they're finished and shiny and ready to install. I'm also going to sand the backs and show you what the back looks like once it's been run over the belt sander. So for now, I'm just going to set the camera up and I'm going to start putting the polyacrylic on there. See what this stuff looks like. Kind of milky looking. So when you put it on, it'll look like you're painting milk on top of this. But the reason I choose a brush to paint this on versus a foam brush is because the bristles on the brush can get inside the bark, inside of all these little spots within the bark itself. So I start off by doing the side first, and I coat it. not worried about any runs or drips at all on this. Now I have them sitting on blocks, because if I didn't, they would stick to the drop cloth. But at the same time, they're also, the block is sticking to the cedar as well. Nothing I can do about that. It is what it is. Here's the one with the bubbles. The grit on here is probably around 220. It's well worn, so it's probably a higher grit at the time, but this block has been used a lot. So there you go. This polyacrylic, clean it off, it's just soap and water. It's water soluble. So you can see on this one, see how it's already soaked in. So before I put it away or wash my brush, I'm just gonna do another, what's left on it, just do another coat on here. As for the bubbles, you can see them there. Not much I can do. It's the product itself that I'm using. So, like I said, when I come back, these 4 will be done. Well, 5. That one holds the ski poles. These are going to hold the skis, because the hole separation is a measured amount, so the ski tips will fit in just right. This hole here is much wider, so the poles will fit in just right. But that's it. So when you come back, I will have these done. Okay, all my pieces have the layer of, what's the word I'm looking for? The amount of layers I want to get them nice and shiny. I'll give you an idea here. So coats, I think I did, my total coat count was about 6 or 7 on these. One thing I learned is this product that I was using, this polyacrylic, I learned don't shake it before I use it. If I'm going to shake it, I might as well just set the can to the side and let it sit there for quite a while, because air bubbles get into the thing. And then when you grab a paintbrush, all those air bubbles transfer from the can onto the wood, and then all of a sudden I got air bubbles everywhere. So I can show you, here's a really good example. See the air bubbles here? It's because it would stick to the brush and just transfer onto the wood. So I ended up switching from this. For the last 3 coats, I stopped using a brush. I stop shaking the can, just open the can up, and I use the foam brush. I found this to be the best. You just get a good coating on the tip and just move it across the top of the wood slowly, not fast, but slowly, putting on a really good thick coat. When that dried, I use this type of foam sander, just the Velcro type. The grit for this is 320. Yep, 320. And so I use this to knock down any of the bubbles that got on it, that got on the pieces. And I'm not gonna keep going. It's not like a piece of furniture or something where I need to have it absolutely perfect. My dowels have 4 coats of the polyacrylic. I did not sand any of this because I don't care on it. Skis are going to be on this and it's going to be getting beaten up anyways. So the next thing I have to do is I have to sand these. These are not going to sit smooth on the board at all. This one's not too bad. And the board, I did one more layer of stain on it. What I did is I rounded my edges off with a sander, orbital sander. I had to cut it to length, and so because of that, I had to restain the end. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to sand this whole thing so the edges have no sharp edges. Everything is rounded, except for this back edge. I don't care about that. It's the front. So doing the second layer of stain, it came out a tad darker, which is fine, but it works in regards to color. Carrying on. Once this gets the clear coat on it, after these are attached, they'll come close to matching. So we're going to put the backing to the side, and we are going to start working on sanding this down. Now, I came up with a little contraption here. The belt sander attachment right here. Of course, when you own a shop vac, your hose has a 2-inch end. So taking my snorkel end to my vacuum hose, I attached another hose to it. Otherwise, it's not. When I say snorkel end, I'll show you here. So this is my shop. This is my shop vac. And then you have that downsize thing. And then I just attached another vacuum hose to it, duct taped it, and then it fits right into my sander. So I'm going to turn off the mic and everything for all this because it's going to be loud as I do this. I don't think you want to hear a vacuum and a sander running at the same time. This one here, I'm going to make I think a candle holder out of this. I'll hold a large candle, but I'm going to do the top like this, really bright, but I'm going to keep the side original, kind of, well, just raw looking. So I'll have a shiny top, but the sides will look like this. Now that this is done, I want to attach these now to the board. Or the backing, the backboard, the back plate, whatever you want to call it. So I am attaching these two different ways. Well, in two ways. It will be glued and it will be screwed. I can't remember what length I'm using. For screws, that is. I think these are. These are 3 1/8. These are 2 1/2. What I'm seeing is how close the tip of the 1/8 would be to this. Obviously, I do not want it to penetrate the top. So here's one that's going to be an issue. That's a little on the thin side. So what I think I'm going to do is stick with 2 1/2. Because what I want to do is these are they're called structural screws. And what it is, it's a thicker neck than normal with an extra wide top. And I want this to countersink because when this is against the wall, I don't want this head to be sticking out. I want this head to be sunk beyond flush in the board. So knowing this one is short, the other ones will be able to take, see, that's my middle. The other ones will be able to take the longer one, the 3 1/8. So I'm going to use the back side as my measurement to figure out where I want everything to be placed. Specifically, my drill holes. So I don't know why I grabbed that. My length is 40 inches. when I attach these, I'm going to put them a little towards the top part of the board and leave a little space underneath, because who knows, maybe I'll add something. I also want to be careful on how close I am to the edge here, because my mounting screws that'll mount into the wall are going to go here and here, and I need space to get my drill in there. So I'm just going to leave approximately an inch of space there. And I'll do the same for the other side. Yeah, that's 1 inch. So now it's just a question of getting the others centered. And I played around with this because I have the holes up high and then I have space below. And I thought, well, what if I do one high and one low? But it looks kind of, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? Is the word I use explain the way I do things. I like things to be in line and level. It's just, and there's a word for that, and I can't think of it now. Let's see. That's a small one, so we're going to switch these. That's a big one. That's a small one. Symmetrical. That's the word I was looking for. Symmetrical. I think that might work. I was thinking doing these below. You could hang a pair of goggles off it. Something like that. I'm not sure still. I'm still debating on that one. If I do that, it'll be a last second thing. So I'm just going to mark lightly or trace lightly the outside of this. The reason I'm doing the circles inside because I want my screws to be in a very specific spot on here. So I kind of need to know where my holes are and where my dowels are going to come through. Drill bit size. I want the drill bit to be just a pinch smaller than the neck of the screw, because I want the screw to pull these in tight. And if the screw hole or the drill hole is too small, then it's not going to pull it in tight. It'll be tight in the wood, but not as tight, not pulling the block in tight. So what I usually do is just pull out a screw and I look at the drill bit against the screw. You know, I'm holding the wrong screw too. A 1364 appears to be my pen. So one thing I think about when I build projects, the wood projects like this, I'm always thinking of leverage, which kind of thinks, well, why would you think of leverage when you're building something? Because when, for example, when you're hanging skis off this, the closer to the backing, the less leverage there is to pull this backing off the wall. But because I'm putting this on here, and then this will stick out another 4 inches, it's much further from the wall, so there's much more leverage, more pull to pull this off the wall. So I got to think about where my pulling power is with the dowel holders here. So what I'm going to do is I don't drill into my top. I'm wrapping these up with a rag because I don't want the stain to get damaged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a screw in the top and a screw in the bottom on all of them. Originally I was thinking 2 in the bottom, but then I thought, well, wait a minute, my pole is from the top. Why would I put the screws in the bottom? So to keep it equal, I'm doing 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. That's my countersink. This is what they call a 1/2 inch countersink. You can buy these in 3/8, 1/2 inch, and 3/4. What I do to see if this works is I hold the head of my screw upside down to see if I've gone deep enough, which I haven't. The whole head should disappear right into it. Like so. Well, zoom in on this for you, or actually I'll bring the camera closer. Yeah, my head goes below the level. So that means it's down there. You see how the head sticks up a little? It's not a completely flush head. So because it's sitting relatively low in there, that means this top part here is not going to stick out and be flush. So I'm building like a little shelf in there. Now, when I drive these screws in, I'm definitely pre-drilling the cedar because it will split. So what I'm using is I'm looking at a screw that is the same width of the neck, but thinner than the threads. So I don't know if this will come out in the camera, but what I do is I hold the screw and look at it this way. And then I see if the screw is the same width of this neck, but not wider than the threads. So next comes the gluing part. I'm just using Gorilla wood glue, nothing special. We know this one goes here. And of course I missed something here. I got a crack here, so I'm not going to be so symmetrical with this one. So as I do this, I know I'm going to have glue squirting out the outside. I definitely want to wipe as much of it as I can with a rag. I didn't like that sound. Yeah, I got a crack. Right from the top. So we're going to change the size of the screw. I knew this was a delicate thing to do. This wood it cracks quite easily. So I'm going to go to a little larger screw so there'll be less stress. Now I used the 3 1/8 on that, but I'm going to go to the shorter screw. I got the glue on there. That should hold it. I just don't want the screw to go in it as deep as I was planning, just because of that crack. I need a T25. Yeah. Now I'm not using impact driver on this intentionally because this wood will split. That was much better. Let me show you that crack. I heard it pop. And there it is. So what I'm going to do is the glue itself is going to hold this well, but I'm going to do another layer. Obviously this is all going to be covered with that polycoat stuff, but I'm going to do another layer here to try to heal that up. Heal it, seal it, whatever it may be. with it countersunk, I'm going in, well, probably a inch and a quarter. Yeah, so I guess that was the right call to switch to a shorter one. Interesting, it's like all of them I'm working with a crack in it, and the crack is all lined up with the bloody screw hole. So I need to offset them. But that's all right, it doesn't matter if it's twisted slightly, because the way this will hold the ski tips. What do I want? Glue. So you can see how much glue I'm putting on it. I'm not gobbing it on there. The clamp I'm using, it's called the Wolfcraft. I don't even think it's available anymore. What I like about it is the reach, and it clamps here and here versus these clamps. You got these openings here, and I can't get them to squeeze as tight. I mean, I can squeeze this to some serious pressure. That's why I'm using it. Now some glues are water soluble. I don't want to use water on this because the wood's not protected. It just has a stain on it. There we go so far. Little side profile. Let me show you the back. So as I tip this, see, no screw head sticking out. Next, I need to cut the dowels to length. And knowing that the wood split on that first piece, I want the dowel to touch the edges, but I don't want them to be going in where I have to hammer it. So like this one here doesn't even push in. So something tells me I'm probably gonna have to sand the end that goes into this versus, yeah, I have to sand this end. So let me cut my lengths. Let's see, I forgot what my ski lengths were, or my ski width tips. So I'm setting this up to a fat tip. We got 5 inches, 5 inches, 1 3/4. So we want at least 5 inches sticking out from here, 5.5 inches actually sticking out from here up. 5 inches will be 6 inches total length. That should be enough. holes that the dowels are going into, I want the dowel to also go into the backing. Remember, I did the backing twice as thick. So I want to go in at least into the first board in the backing, so it sits in like this. So what I'm doing here is measuring my outside width, 0.86. 0.87. We have 2 or 0.74. So I'm going to take this. This is a speed bit. I'm not a big fan of these bits, but if you use them in a drill press, they actually work. They don't work too bad. So I'm going to use them to kind of hone these holes a tad bigger, and these should just slide right in. But like I said, I want to wait till that glue dries, and then that way I have a solid platform. Nothing's going to twist or crack on me. So since this is drying and I got a couple cracks, I wonder, nah, that won't work. I was thinking of pouring glue in the top here to seal it. Well, actually I can pour a little, squirt some in there. This glue dries clear. So the glue that I'm squirting down here, I'm not going to see it once it's dried up. So I'm at a stopping point because I want all this to dry before I start drilling more holes into it. So when I come back, we'll come back and drill. You'll see me drill the holes in it and start installing my dowels. Meanwhile, I'm going to take these dowels and cut the other one. So this is the long one for here. Yeah, I got one more dowel to cut, and I should get these 2 plus this, which is the long one. All right, we're at a stopping point. We'll come back tomorrow on this. So I'm adding this video in because what I had recorded earlier I have lost, so I'm re-recording this to go inside the rest of the video in regards to the ski rack. I chose not to use the speed bit. The reason why is when you use these type of bits, the back side of the wood that you're working with tends to get damaged. It's not a clean hole. Especially when you're going into a hole that's already previously drilled. So I wanted to show you quite a few different types of wood bits or bits that can be used for drilling wood, but one I've never owned, and so I ended up going out and buying this kit because I knew that drilling into the hole was going to really give me a perfect hole, and drilling into the current hole that's going to hold the dowels, it's not going to damage the holes. It's going to be a perfect fit. So let me show what I got here. So these bits should be familiar to you. This is your traditional bit that everyone has. This is your speed bit. This is a wood bearing bit. You can see the tip. How this is very different. This can be used in a power drill. And then there's another kind, it's a different base. It's a 4-sided base, where this one here is 8-sided or 6-sided. 6-sided. There's one it's 4-sided, and that goes into the handheld bit that your grandfather had that would crank, and I actually have one of those sets. But the one, and then you got your hole saw. When I drilled the holes originally into this, you saw I used the hole saw. But I didn't want to reuse that because taking a hole saw and going back into a hole again, the hole saw tends to walk, even if it's in a drill press. So I bought this kit at Lowe's, and I was very aware of these drill bits. I just never had a reason to buy them. I will put the type of drill bit they're called in the description below. But what's different about these is if you look at the tip, it's designed to create its own hole while drilling down. So it's going to do substantially less damage, especially if you're going through the wood. It's not going to rip the back end of the wood because it's like a hole saw to begin with, cutting from here. So that's what I ended up using to drill through the cedar and reopening those holes up for the dowels to fit in. And they were still snug, the dowels going in, but I didn't have to, I used the mallet. I didn't have to use a heavy hammer, and just a light tap, the dowels went in perfect. So what you're going to see in the next shot is really the dowels installed and glued. So again, these are the bits, a bit set. Price of this kit was $55. One is not missing because I'm currently working on another wood project, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm reaming a hole out so threaded rod will go through a little easier. So there we go. This is our ski tip ski rack. So the first or 4 will hold skis, fat skis, and then this will hold your ski poles. You could put skis on here too, but I'd rather see it used for poles. I mean, you're limited on weight capacity on this. I have to say, I'm not impressed with this product by Miniwax at all. I find it, if you look at the texture, it leaves these like bubbles. And no matter how many times you sand the damn thing, it keeps leaving bubbles. And it does not matter whether I'm using a foam brush or a high-end bristle brush. It always leaves these tiny little bubbles. And one good example is here. These are all bubbles that are dried up. Give you a better look there. Even on, yeah, see all the bubbles all the way up? It kind of irks me, but it's just gonna hold skis. It's gonna get beat up. But if I build another one, I'm definitely not using that product. I'm gonna go back. I think what I used in the past was something called Helmsman oil. I didn't like about it. That one was the brush cleaning. It went through a lot of brushes to use that product because it was oil based. So this video will end on that, the ski rack there. And I'm going to, after this video, I'm going to post some pictures of it installed with the skis hanging on it, so you can give you a very good view or vision of what this does. That's it. So this is Big Guy DIY Robert signing off. Have a good one. Have a good ski season. Take care.